I had a really interesting conversation just this week with a rider when she was feeling a little bit downhearted at the fact that she feels like all I do is work on beginner things. Now, she was referring to the basics, these essentials in riding. And I'm going to tell you here exactly what I told her. The basics are for everyone, and the basics are vitally important. I want to explain why and how you can make them a little bit more fun to work on today. Okay, let's dive in. Hey there, and welcome to the Daily Strides podcast. My name is Lorna Leeson. I'm an equestrian trainer and coach, and I work with riders from all over the world to help them to understand how to make more of their time in the saddle so that they can become better riders and train their horse, especially if they don't have a regular instructor or trainer. Okay, so let's dive into this. This is a big topic because I think there are so many riders out there, and maybe you felt the same way, who they just feel that they're being held back with the beginner things. And every time they go work with an instructor or a trainer, that person keeps making them repeat these terrible, boring, basics that they just want to get on with. Like, come on, let's get on to the fun stuff. Now, I do remember what it was like to be young and to want to get on to all the fun stuff. But it's not just younger riders who struggle with this, hey? I think so many riders need to understand that in order to do the fun stuff really well, you first have to get the basics right. And for all the riders that they're looking at doing the fun stuff, that only makes up such a small amount of their riding and their horsemanship time. The rest of the time is spent on the basics. There is always this refining, this kind of changing things up, this evolution that's going on with every single rider who is dedicated to improving themselves as a rider. They are dedicated to improving the basics in their riding so that they can better communicate with the horse. Now, what are the basics? Well, the big obvious one is like your position, yeah? If you've been for a lesson or three, you've probably had a riding instructor telling you something to do with moving your body to a different place and trying to keep it there, yeah? Okay, so your position is really, really important. There's also your posture. These are like the basic things for life, hey? Your position, your posture, your aids, yeah? So actually the tools you're using to communicate, whether they're natural aids, which means they're part of you, or whether they're artificial aids, which means they're not part of you. You can leave them at the stables. They don't have to come home with you, okay? And you also then have to take into account the ability to bend and turn. I know, but like it's amazing how many riders don't know how to properly bend or turn or circle or whatever you want to call it, okay? Not go on a straight line to turn around to go home. How many riders do that really badly, like really, really badly? And then you also have, I would put into this, transitions, especially in and out of halt, walk, trot, canter, those just basic transitions between gaits as well. I think that when we think about the basics, it is really, really, really important that we understand all of these things and that we not only understand them, we can use them then to actually create something better when we're working with our horse. And whether that work is on the ground, whether it's lunging, whether it's riding, whether it's jumping, whether it's dressage, whether it's reining, it makes no difference, okay? Whatever you're doing with your horse, when you understand and you can ride and implement the basics in a way that you're not having to all the time focus on them, okay? Like it just happens. It's like magic. It just, this thing. When you're doing that, that's where you and your horse are going to have these huge improvements in your riding, your training, and your work together. But I know, I get it, okay? It doesn't seem like they are fun. It seems like it's, a little bit basic. But I often tell the children here that I work with in South Africa, the children that I work with in the riding school, rugby is huge in South Africa. And I always say the guys on the rugby team, the Springboks, they don't just like pitch up on the pitch and do their own thing. No, they've got like trainers and coaches and people helping them to improve. And you know what they're working on? The basics, day in and day out. That is what they're refining. And it's the same with any sport. Any sport that you look at somebody who really is high level and who has achieved something really great, they are not working on the fancy dancy things that create the whole performance that we see on the big day. No, behind the scenes, they're working on the basics. It is so, so, so important. In fact, so often it is a lack of the basics, or it's having a misunderstanding or maybe even the wrong combination of the basics that's actually causing riders to become stuck or plateaued. You know, I really think that when we learn to ride, we are mostly, okay, for the most part, we are taught to do things in a really, really simple way, because the riding instructor doesn't want to overcomplicate things. And when we're learning, there's so many kind of new things coming at us that you just want the person to get a little bit of a result, a little bit of a win, okay? And you're willing to, as the riding instructor, to oversimplify things to help them to get that win, to help your rider get there. But the problem is, from that, so many riders think like, oh, I can do it now. It's that like real confidence that pure beginners have, yeah? And it's like, oh, I can do it now. Like, look at this. This is so easy. Watch me go. And they never think that they have to actually go back and learn the ins and outs of it. Yeah, they might be able to get the horse to turn now, but is the horse like really and truly in correct bend or flexion, or is the horse like straight through that turn? Like if we think about train tracks and things like that. Probably not. Like probably the way you learned to turn a horse on the very first day you rode a horse, okay? So you maybe went around an arena, and at some point inevitably there's going to be a point where you have to turn around and go home, or you have to head back towards the gate, okay? And whether you're in the arena, you're in a field, you're out on the trail, it makes no odds. At some point you have to turn the horse. And how you learned to turn that horse, and whether you learned just by yourself, you were like, oh sugar, there's a tree I have to turn, or oh sherbet, look, we're going to run into the fence, I have to turn, or whether it was an instructor there who guided you through the process, that was probably a very simplified kind of, let's just make it work for the sake of making it work today kind of a scenario. It wasn't the refinement. It wasn't none of the intricacies that really and truly are involved with using your whole body in order to communicate to the horse and then to allow the horse to travel through the turn. That probably wasn't there, wasn't part of it. So if you continue to turn that way, and I see this over and over and over again, if you continue to like think for the rest of your riding journey, well, we got turning, we learned that the first day, there we go, check, done. You're never going to move forward. You're going to reach a point in your riding where your inability to, first of all, comprehend and understand, but secondly, to actually ride a good turn, and we're just using turning here, okay, as an example, but your inability to do that is actually going to negatively impact everything else. It's going to take everything else down. It's going to hold everything else back. And eventually it will actually become the sticking point. It will become the reason you plateau somewhere and you become stuck and cannot move forward in your riding. Now, I've mentioned turning there, but like all of the things that we just said apply. Like the position. If you're not sitting correctly in the saddle, how could you even begin to expect that your aids are going to be used in the right way, in the right place to effectively communicate to your horse? How? You know, what always strikes me with horses, and I say this over and over again, a horse is a horse is a horse is a horse. And what I mean by that is it doesn't matter what discipline you're riding. It doesn't matter what tack you have. It doesn't matter what you're busy trying to do or not trying to do, or what you're starting or what you're stopping. It doesn't matter, because a horse is a horse is a horse is a horse. And when you look at all of the different disciplines and all of the different ways we as riders can interact with our horse, they all have this very basic foundational elements to them. And one of those is the position of the rider in the saddle. They're so similar. And if you're doing it right, and you're looking at like people who ride well, okay, not just random Joe Soaps from down the road. We're talking about people who actually know what they're at here, okay? When you look at that and you take people from different disciplines, and you line them all up, and they're doing their everyday basic stuff, okay? I'm not talking about the fancy dancy stuff. I'm talking about the everyday basic stuff. They are riding very much the same, because position matters, and being in the right place to communicate to your horse really matters. And these people know that. And again, it doesn't matter what the situation is. A horse is a horse is a horse is a horse. So if you're struggling in your riding right now, is it possible that some of the basics, okay, maybe 1, maybe 3, I don't know, okay, but there's something gone a little wonky. There was something that you learned, or maybe you did not learn, but usually people learn it a certain way that, again, is a very oversimplified way of learning this thing. Is there something that you've learned that now is no longer serving you, that you need to go deeper, you need to find out more, you need to be able to ride it better, you need to be able to improve this, you need to be able to make tweaks, refinements, whatever. We can put all the words there. You need to evolve as a rider. You need to kind of really stop being stuck on the thing you learned when you first started riding, and start appreciating the things that you still have to learn as you move through this as a rider. That is what the riders who you're looking up to, who you think are the bee's knees and turkey's eyebrows, that is what they are doing. They are working on the basics. They are making the basics part and parcel of everything they do with their horse. And I am going to encourage you to do the exact same thing. And this is true if you've been riding 20 years, if you've been riding 6 months, if you have not been riding in 30 years and you're suddenly coming back to riding. It doesn't matter. You have to work on the basics. The basics are so important. If you would like to find a way to really kind of blend all of those basics that I've spoken about, and to blend it into how you're working with your horse so you can improve each and every one of those in a way that works, I'm going to really encourage you to sign up for the waitlist for Returning to Riding, because that's exactly what we cover inside of the Returning to Riding program. We take each of those elements just bit by bit, and we work through it in a way that you see massive results in your riding. I'm telling you now, when you get the basics right, right for this moment, this place, this time where you are right now in your riding journey, and that's not going to be the same as anybody else. This is your place, okay? So they are unique to you, how they should work right now. But when you get it right and working for you, everything else becomes so much easier. Everything. Your horse will become easier, because you know what? You're not frustrating your horse anymore, talking absolute gibberish in the back of the saddle. You're not like blah, 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 and then you're saying one thing and you're contradicting it the next, and your horse doesn't know if he's coming or going. What does she want? She can't make up her mind. What's going on here? Your basics, when you get it working for you, is what makes all of the difference. That is going to really and truly just help your overall communication with your horse. So for all the details, make sure you're signed up to the waitlist, returningtoriding.com. I have a webinar coming very soon, a live training that it's free, that you can join up for, and we will cover all of this and more for you and your horse. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that for today. Have an absolutely fantastic day. Hopefully this has got you inspired to maybe dive a little deeper into some part of the basics that you know are not 100% for you and your horse. Good luck with it. Okay, I'll chat to you soon. Be good. Bye.